Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of JohnnyVlogs. This one's going to be a little bit different because basically we're going to do some follow-up from last week's BrainScratch about Kenneka Jenkins. As I mentioned in that episode, there's a lot of news moving very quickly. As I've gone through the weekend, I've been keeping tabs on it. I want to make sure to keep all of you updated. So BrainScratch is hijacking JohnnyVlogs a little bit today. But before we jump into that, I still want to thank new Patreon supporters, Brenna Kimsey, thank you so much. Rita Schaefer, thank you for supporting the show. And Annie Abe also is now pledged on Patreon. Thank all of you so much. I also wanted to give a very quick shout out to James Reed, who he lives in the UK, and I don't know if this is true for many of you out there, but sometimes I'm hearing from people when they're trying to contribute via Patreon that they're being taxed really heavily. So James reached out to me and he's like, can I just send you some money on PayPal every now and then? So if you're having the same problem and you want to do like James does, you can send it to john@lordandarts.com. Just use that email address with PayPal, send it directly to that email address, and you can also support the show that way. Thank you so much, James, for helping to keep me here doing what I love doing. With all that being said, we have a lot to talk about. So basically the day that I released the BrainScratch, we already had a blip on the news happen basically between when I shot the BrainScratch and when it was actually released. And that was a community activist by the name of Andrew Holmes had come out saying that he saw the footage, and he started describing what he saw in the footage. One of the things he said was that he specifically saw footage of her going into the freezer. And then he even went into detail about the doors into the freezer, that you go through one door and then you go through another to get into the freezer. Unfortunately, that seems to be highly contested, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But he also did state that he was sure there was a button inside the freezer that was supposed to be able to let her out, and that was being investigated more. The lawyers for Tereasa Martin say that they have been given snippets or clips of the videos as well. However, the videos they have do not show her going into the freezer specifically. And then on the heels of all that, law enforcement basically released snippets to the public. So we've got clips that we're going to look at also here in a moment. But I just wanted to comment before we do that about Andrew Holmes. I believe that he was trying to share his insights about the freezer, and his dialogue just kind of got mashed up. I think he was really confusing his experience of going into the freezer, which apparently he did himself, and the footage that he had seen of her. Unless he's seen some footage that for some reason the police aren't releasing publicly that would put all of this to an end, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So my opinion is Andrew was kind of mashing together his knowledge of the freezer from being there firsthand with the footage that he had seen. And from that, we have yet another tragic misunderstanding in this case of there being some type of footage of her directly walking into the freezer. With all that being said, let's jump over to an article at the Chicago Tribune. And this has a video segment here of all the clips that have been released publicly. Let's just watch them together. So the first clip we get, this is actually the first time I've seen this clip, is Kenneka walking with her friends. We can see she's in the back. They're going to have a little circle to highlight her right here. And she's walking with several friends through the hall. Of course, at that point, she didn't look drunk or anything. I mean, she's walking normally. She's walking next to someone. But note that the time here, this is only at about 12:13. Then the time jumps forward pretty substantially. We're now looking at 2:24 in the morning. So a little over 2 hours later. We have the elevator doors open. And she comes out and she's stumbling fairly hard, so hard that she almost goes into the wall there and has to brace herself. More footage of her stumbling down the hallway. This is at 2:25. From what I understand, this door at the end of the hallway here is a men's bathroom, I believe. that's about the worst of the footage, just where she hits the stairwell there and almost falls over. And it really seems like she's not sure where she's going. She might not even be sure what she's doing. I mean, she comes back into frame here. She goes into what I believe is the men's restroom. She comes back out. She's once again having trouble. She's holding herself up with the corner of the wall. Those footsteps back and forth. I'm a little concerned that we have more going on here than just her being a little too drunk, or maybe even mixing alcohol and marijuana. I'm also bouncing this back real quick because I've seen some suggestions that she might be carrying something. In this clip in particular, it looks like in her left hand, right there, there's some type of shiny object. I'm not positive what that is. And here is the last time you will see her in the footage. You can see this is obviously an out-of-use kitchen area. And she walks through a hall, heading into that back corner, and then that's the last time we see her. Now, I believe this is the footage that the community activist was talking about. I believe, and I don't know this for sure, but if you look through this hallway here, you can see there's a shiny wall back here. I think that's the freezer. It's kind of hard for me to tell for certain. That could just be a wall that is, I mean, you can see there's a lot of stainless steel surfaces back here because it's a kitchen area. But I believe if that's the freezer, that is how Mr. Holmes is coming to his conclusion that he saw footage of her walking towards the freezer. I still wouldn't say that you can see her walk into the freezer. You certainly can't. But this is the last time we see her on footage. And what is she looking for? I have no idea. You'd figure, if she was looking for a bathroom, I think she went into at least a men's restroom earlier in the footage, and she wasn't in there very long. We can see this footage is at 2:32. Now, I just want to say, I don't know if this time frame is official. I don't know if this actually came out of the video system this way, because I've seen these same clips on other publications, and they don't have this time code up here. Honestly, while I was filming this, I just noticed that something really strange, and guys, I don't want to call attention to something that might just be a bad edit job or something like that, but I want to call it out because I'm sure that those of you that pay attention to these kind of things are going to notice something weird happens with the time code here at the end of the video where, watch, it's 2:32 and then it jumps back to 7:33 that same evening. I mean, or is it later? No, that would be 7:33. Okay. So I believe this is happening because this system might be motion activated. We're going to get some more details about that as we look through the article real quick. So yeah. Now I've got my head on this right. 2:32 is in the morning of 9/9, and then when it jumps to, so I would assume that at 7:30, someone else is about to walk in a frame, and that's why this recorder has kicked back on. But we'll talk more about the aspects of video here. Though it doesn't capture her entering the walk-in freezer where her body was found, video taken by what appears to be a motion-activated camera shows that there is no one else that came into the area until her body was found. And they actually have some more detail here than I've seen anywhere else. The same surveillance camera, which appears to be motion activated, next picks up activity at 8:34 p.m., which I don't know why, but there are so many time discrepancies going on with this. It's almost a little frustrating to be looking into. From what I just saw, I think it's 7:30 that actually kicked on. When a person briefly enters the frame, looks around, and leaves. No one else enters the picture until 12:23 a.m. on September 10th, when a man goes around the same corner where Jenkins was last seen. A few seconds later, he walks quickly out of the frame and returns with a police officer. More officers soon arrive, hustling toward the corner. Yeah, while I'm on it, just with the time frame thing, let me just tell you guys what I've been dealing with in terms of that, because it's a little nutty. In terms of messed up time frames, we have the Chicago Tribune saying that the time code is showing it happening around the 2:30 time frame. CNN is reporting that the footage is actually happening around 3:30. The reports about when Tereasa Martin, her mother, was called are varying now from as early as 3:30 all the way to as late as 4:30. Even in the point that I made on the last BrainScratch about the Facebook Live video and about the time that showed it was posted, which looked like it was 11:36, some commenters are saying, well, that could be different if you're in a different time zone or something like that. I'm actually in the same time zone, so there should not be a time zone discrepancy with me looking, in particular me looking at the time that Facebook Live was posted, unless there's something else weird that I don't know about, but a straight up time zone discrepancy should not apply from where I am to where they were. I'd really like there's so many publications covering this. I'd really love if someone would dig in on these time frame discrepancies and iron this stuff out and give us a good solid time frame. We have a time code from the video. Like I said, I don't know if what we saw there was legit from the video system or if that might have been edited and added by the Chicago Tribune. But I'd really love to see a very tight time frame. We can look at a phone and see when a phone call happened to her mother. There should be no discrepancy about what time her mother was called. Anyway, so Tereasa Martin and her attorneys, they also held a press conference discussing their issues with what was going on. I have a link to it down below so you can check it out for yourself. It runs about 20 minutes, but I'm going to hit the high points here for you. They're mentioning that they've only been released snippets, that they don't have the entire video. They're asking questions about why it took so long to find her, why no hotel staff tried to help her. Very good questions. Why and how she was able to access an area that wasn't being used. Why the freezer was on while it wasn't in use. That's another kind of common sense potential safety issue that could have been avoided there if they would have just shut the freezer off. And that they're not going to stop until they get all video and all statements, something that leads them to a solid explanation of what happened to Kenneka. They seem to be very strongly questioning the hotel's responsibility and lack of action in finding Kenneka. At some point, a reporter asks them and tells them that the hotel has actually offered for them to come down and watch the entire video. The lawyers say that they are aware of the offer for at least the past hour, but specifically that no tape is being provided to them. And I don't know if there's some logistics problem there. I think that this video is probably a digital video system. I don't know if, do they have to burn DVDs? They're obviously not going to put that to videotape. So it's got to be digitally exported somehow. You're talking supposedly 36 hours of footage. I mean, sure, someone could run to Best Buy, get a hard drive, I think probably hook that up to the system and copy off the video files and then take that to the attorneys. I don't think that the hotel is necessarily taking all those steps. From what I'm hearing, the hotel is offering that the lawyers can come to their location and view the video, but the lawyers are being very strong and suggesting we don't have a tape. We should be provided with a tape. So someone's going to have to give on that issue, I think, do a little footwork and make that happen. I think that they should be able to get a full copy of the tape. But we'll see. We'll see what happens around that. And they are extremely focused now, I think in part because of what was said by Andrew Holmes, the community activist. They're extremely focused on footage of her specifically going into the freezer. That's what they've heard about. That's what they want to see. And I don't think they're going to rest until they see that. Unfortunately, based on what I've already shared with you guys, I don't think it exists. I think that footage that we saw is probably the best footage that they have to explain what happened to her. But from that camera, can we assume some other things like no one was following her? Because that would have also triggered the motion capture system. That should have showed up on the tape, unless we get into the whole thought that there's some kind of conspiracy going on here and the tape has been altered or something along those lines. So that's about the high points for the press release that happened, or the press conference that happened with the lawyers. Public theories are still flying around. Of course, I started hearing about a lot of them now directly because I've posted a video on this. The first thing to come out when the footage was released was that that's actually not Kenneka in the footage, but someone wearing her clothes. If you start chasing that theory down, there's a lot of other things that have to happen for that to be true. First of all, the person that went to fake this footage, we don't know why, wearing her clothes and then heading towards the freezer. When did they leave? Why wasn't that caught on footage? If they were wearing her clothes, did they then put the clothes back on her? I'm assuming that she was found with her clothes. I don't have strict proof of that, but I think it would have been noted if she was found naked or something like that. So at that point, the person would have had to change into some other clothes. You can see in the footage, she's not carrying anything except for what I think might be a lipstick container or something very small that's in one of her hands. But there's obviously no bag, no change of clothes that is with that person. So could we put a lot into that theory that it's not actually her? I personally have trouble with it. Some people are saying that they don't think the clothes are a perfect match or that the girl in the footage looks too heavy to be Kenneka. And they're comparing footage from the security system to cell phone pictures that were taken at the party. I think that's a horrible comparison. The lenses alone between a cell phone and a security system are severely different. That's why they sell different lens attachments for your cell phone, like wide angle lenses and stuff like that. Those type of lenses are more likely to be built into camera systems for security because they're capturing a wider spread of angle of view. So comparing videos or pictures from those types of systems that are very, very different in how they capture images, I don't think it's a good comparison. Outside of that, in the footage, particularly the footage of her in the elevator lobby, she gets pretty close to the camera where I think that if there was any question of was that really her or not, indeed, her family would have raised that. I'm pretty sure her mom would have said, hey, that girl that's in that footage is not my daughter. We are not hearing anything like that directly from the family. And this is a family that is being very vocal because they're trying to get as much information as they can to really understand what's happened here. And her mom's already been very vocal about her thoughts and feelings about things about this. So if there was any hint of that not being her, I'm almost certain we would have heard about it directly from her mother at this point. People are once again seeing other people in the reflections on this footage. Specifically, they're now saying in the kitchen area with all those shiny surfaces that you can see a man watching her or something along those lines. Once again, we have the camera system that we know is active at that point. Even if he was watching her after she walked through the hall, he would have to approach her at some point. That would obviously be captured on camera. We don't have anything like that going on unless, once again, you push this into conspiracy theory territory where this is a person that had access to the camera system, was able to delete the footage of himself approaching her or something along those lines. Once again, we haven't heard anything from her family in terms of well, it's not fair because the autopsy report still hasn't been released. So we don't know if was any bruising found on her. Did it look like she was being restrained in any way? At this time, we still don't have a good understanding of that. So, and unfortunately, we still don't have toxicology results, which is what I'm really waiting for here. And then you have to ask yourself with something like that, if you do think that there's someone else in the reflection of the footage, why is there this conspiracy going on to cover it up? And that is ultimately opening up the hotel to huge liability issues. To me, based on what the lawyers are saying, I'm feeling pretty confident that the hotel has a lawsuit coming. So why is the hotel going to take part in this person and wiping out the footage of this person approaching her or something like that? Typically, video systems are accessed only by security personnel. They're usually in locked up areas because they don't want, like if the place was robbed or something like that, they don't want a thief to be able to go and remove the video system with whatever else they're taking and then take all the footage of them with it. So I don't think that unless you're assuming that this is a security person that is following her around, which is certainly a possibility, but I don't want to kick around more theories on this than we need to at this point. From what we're seeing in the footage, I find it very tough to say there's someone else in the reflections of that stainless steel. I'm personally not seeing it, and I haven't seen a lot of compelling information. I've just been hearing people say that. Some people say that she had her phone and keys in the footage of her walking around. I watched that footage a bunch of times. That's why I noted to you that it looks like in that one particular clip, she's holding something. I don't think it's her keys because her friends did take her mother's car. So we know that they had her keys. They're saying that they had her phone as well. I'm assuming that got back to her mother. So I don't think she had her phone. I think it might be a lipstick container, but I'm not sure. It does look like something small, round, and shiny that she's carrying in that hand. Protests have continued. On Saturday, there was a group that marched to the FBI field office. They're trying to raise exposure with the FBI to get them to do a federal level investigation into this case. And they are saying that protests are supposed to continue specifically at the hotel through next week. The hotel has already offered to pay for Kenneka's funeral expenses. Now, what I'm not sure of is that contingent on some type of contract or liability waiver being signed? I'm pretty sure that the hotel, if they were going to offer something like that, they're going to have a little contract that comes with that saying, okay, now you agree that you're not going to sue us for wrongful death or something like that. I would like to hope that they're better people than that, and maybe that offer of covering the funeral expenses is coming without a contract like that. But I would be extremely surprised. I'm pretty sure that any lawyer would try to get that contract in there with the payment for the funeral expenses being contingent on it. I didn't mention it in the video, but I did find this out last week. Her mother also posted a video about several fake GoFundMes that were popping up in Kenneka's name. I went looking today. I only found traces of one, and when I clicked on it, that has been taken down. Her mother does say that she's planning on turning one on at some point and that she'll let us know when she does. I was hoping to find that today so that I could tell you all about it, but I don't think that she has done that yet. I'm pretty sure, if nothing else, she's missing work. I'm sure while she's dealing with all this, she's probably going to need some financial help just to keep herself supported. I'm ready to donate to that. I think this is a terrible, tragic story. And outside of that, I'm pretty sure she's going to be racking up some legal expenses with this new direction that it seems like her and her attorneys are going on. As I mentioned earlier, still no word from the coroner on the official cause of death or the toxicology results. I am more curious than ever about the toxicology results because that footage looks to me like she is pretty severely drugged. I don't know that that is just a drunken stupor. Perhaps if she was mixing alcohol and marijuana, maybe it could be that. But I just want to rule out that there's any other type of drug interaction going on here, any possibility that someone might have slipped or something along those lines. And I don't think we'll be able to do that until we get the coroner's report. Even outside of that, the lawyers for her mother are already starting to mention that they will likely do another independent autopsy. Let's see. So Kenneka's mother wants access to all the security footage, as I mentioned before. And specifically, here's a quote from her on CNN. You can just tell how much this woman is hurting. I thank everybody for your help, the love, and support. But I also want to know what happened. I want to see all. I want to see her actually walking into this freezer and closing herself within this freezer and freezing to death. Now, keep in mind, this is a woman that's very hurt that is saying this. She's obviously going through one of the toughest things in life that you can face, and she's doing it extremely publicly. She's really having to put herself out there because she's really trying to shake the trees to get all the information that she can about what happened to her daughter and keep awareness raised to this. It's just, my heart really goes out to her. This cannot be easy for her to be balancing all this. I'm glad that she at least has some people that she can lean on a little bit in terms of the support she's had at the rallies. I've heard that people were even contributing to her directly at the rallies. She seems to have a pretty decent legal team put together now. So it seems like she's got some good support coming in around her. But the one thing that's missing, of course, is the answer, a definitive answer. And like I said before, I don't think the footage she's asking for exists. Even if it did, I don't know that it would be enough for her. I think what she's looking for isn't going to come in video footage. It isn't going to come in comments from people that were on the site. I think what she's looking for is something else, and that is really her daughter. She's in grief, and she's reaching out for anything that she can clutch on to. Man, I don't know how she's doing so well in terms of being able to stay public and show up at all these events and keep everything going in the way that she is. The main issue that I'm worried about at this point, outside of waiting for the toxicology results, is that we're now learning that this video system is likely motion detector based. So in terms of theories about the footage, when you have these motion detector based systems, those theories just will never die. People are always going to point back to that system and say, well, look, there's a big edit in it. There's a big clip that's missing. We don't know what happened after she went in and when the person came looking for her. Even while I was recording this, I wasn't expecting to talk about some stupid theory about a security guard at the area, which, by the way, if you look at what the family and other people have said about this hotel, they were running all over that place. There was no security guard that was stopping them when they were knocking door to door, trying to find out what happened to her. So I don't think that even my own security guard theory has all that much possibility in this. But I'm telling you, when you have motion detector based systems like this, I think that's part of what's going to be hard of convincing her mother, because now she's going to get this 36 hours of footage. They're probably still going to focus on the same clips that have already been released. But when you want to play them out on each side, to make sure that no one was in there before she got there or that no one came in there after she went in there, you're now going to see these giant edits and go, wait, there's something missing, because it jumps from 2:33 till 7:33 the next evening. It's going to be tough. And I don't know. I really don't know how this is going to shake out, but I'm going to keep updated on it. I want to thank all of you out there. The comment threads have been really, really good. I know there's been a couple comments here or there where people are getting into a difference of opinion, but in general, you guys have been awesome about being in the right place with your hearts while you're talking about this. And I really, really appreciate that. The comment threads have also been a great place to keep updated on the case. And many of you brain scratchers out there are helping to keep me updated. So I really appreciate all your help on this. Take care, everyone. Hope you have a good day, good Monday, and I'll see you back here tomorrow on the Lord and Orange channel.